Welcome to episode 3 of Paws in Play. Today we're up in the northeast on the beautiful Tynemouth Beach. Sophie, who are we talking to?
We're going to talk to Newcastle United and Republic of Ireland defender Aoife Mannion, and we're going to meet her dog, Noodle the Doodle. God, that was a tongue twister.
Hello.
Hello.
She's on one.
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hi.
You're doing it.
Hi, Noodle.
Noodle.
Noodle. For our listeners / viewers' benefit, will you introduce us to Noodle? Tell us a little bit about her. When did you get her?
So this is Noodle. She's turning 5 years old in March. There's a bit of an interesting story behind how we ended up getting her actually. We were out with some drinks with a friend, and the friend was telling us this really sad story about a dog who was one of 11. She'd found an owner, she'd found a new home, and she'd headed off, and they'd sent her back after a week.
Oh,
And it was Noodle.
no.
And they had us hook, line and sinker
Noodle.
about, yeah,
I want you.
about how she'd went from being the most confident dog of the litter to then like taking herself off, like being really isolated. So of course, after, I don't know what it was, a mojito, we were like, oh, we'll have a look. So the following day, me and Alice went and checked her out, and she was on her own in the fireplace.
Oh.
And immediately she was obsessed with Alice. We were like, we can't leave her, we've got to take her.
You've
And-
helped her mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
What a full
We're
circle.
the heroes of this story. So that's how we ended up getting Noodle, and we weren't even living together at the time. We were about to live together, but we got not very sensible as this. We got Noodle, and we actually didn't have anywhere to live with
Set her up.
So she lived with one of our parents for a little bit. It was
Aw.
just in the time when I was going to Man United. So back in 2021, and 4 or 5 years later, we're still going strong. Everything's good. She's happy.
And
You're
adjusted
happy?
to the new move to Newcastle?
Yeah. She is obsessed with the beach.
Yep, as I can see.
She'd been a few times to beaches like Formby, but it's so far away from. Like I say, far away. It's just not on your doorstep. Whereas this obviously is on the doorstep of Newcastle, so she loves it.
Easy, yeah.
She loves it. She's not used to actually being on the lead as well. Usually on this beach,
Oh, you
you'll
let her off.
notice all the other dogs are just like, off you go.
Oh, I don't want to hold you back, Noodle.
If you're good, Noodle, we'll let you off at the end.
How did life change as an athlete having a pet?
It changes in some ways, and then it's similar in most. But when we got her, obviously she has to be trained and she needs to be able to sleep through the night, and we decided we wanted to keep her downstairs.
Smart.
It is smart, but it's so
Hard
hard.
work.
And we were this close to just being like, you know what, just do what you want, because
Yeah.
you're doing our head in. So, but we persevered, and we kind of, after a year, everyone sort of gets used to their dog, but it was really hard at the start. We took her to little doggy lessons, the little doggy school, and that was so much fun. It was so cool, so interesting. So she's got like a little, I don't know what the program was that she did, but her exam was that she had to be able to sit for a minute.
She has an exam.
Yeah, she had like a little. I get
good.
really nervous for football games, but I was so nervous for her exam. I was so nervous. So there's 8, 9, 10 dogs that are doing the course, and then at the end there's a series of things that they have to be able to do.
Yeah.
So one is be left in the corner, they can see you, but they're not allowed to come to you for a minute. And they'll count it down, and just the anxiety.
That's so intense.
I know it is, and then when we were really emotional then when she did it. It's not that deep at all. Yeah. But it was, we were really proud of her. She got a little rosette and stuff.
Proud mums.
She got a little certificate.
Did you have her during your last ACL injury?
Yes.
What
Yes, we did. We did have her. Yeah.
was that like? Did it give you something else to kind of think about? Did you have that I don't want to say support, but that comfort when you're having those shit days?
Yeah, it did massively. The thing that I thought of straight away was I really struggled with not being able to bring her on a walk.
Yeah.
And firstly I was really lucky that obviously Alice could pick up that side of things, but I kind of feel Oh,
Hello.
hello. It was hard actually because I couldn't do that side of like looking after her properly. She's such a big dog, so she does need lots of walks, lots of interaction. And I remember at the start, the physio would say like, even when I was off the crutches, he was like, look, when you get home after training, you really need to sit down and just rest, which is fine. But at the same time, it's hard because then football and stuff with football starts to bleed into your normal life.
Yeah.
So in some ways, of course, she is so helpful because like she's such a great distraction. But I did find that tricky at the same time. And then even like you can see how I'm having to. It's like little things like having to kind of like hold her. She's such a big dog. So then when we'd go out on the walk, I'd be like, "Oh, Alice, do you mind holding her?"
Yeah.
Do you feel like a little bit of a loser? Like obviously it's like not. Like it's you know what it is, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I guess, as you say, like it's a way to escape a little bit from football.
Yeah.
And when you're not able to do that, and football, we all know, is all-consuming. It takes up a lot of our time.
Yeah.
Especially like as an athlete, and when you're recovering from injury, it's even harder, I imagine.
Yeah, massively. I mean, everything you've said, you've hit the nail on the head. She's just a nice distraction and a reminder that there is a level of stability outside of football that we don't get from football.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to build that up as a footballer because most of us, for the bulk of our career, it's like all in.
Yeah.
All eggs in one basket. Shit or bust. I don't know if you'll have to cut that out. But everything, you know, we're in hustle mode. We're trying to do our best. We want our career to be amazing. We want to prove things to ourselves, to other people, like all the good stuff. And when that works, it is like the biggest high ever. But when something gets pulled away, so with an injury, it is like rock bottom.
Yeah.
Which it is like shows that there's very little perspective often to being a footballer.
Yeah.
And obviously with time and with getting older and a bit more mature, I can kind of see the funny side of that as well and see how weird it is sometimes as footballers, how we're so single-minded. But it is a hotbed, I think, for just really struggling with things when so much of our identity is what we do when we cross that white line.
Yeah, it's something Kirsty said. She'd found herself being consumed. All aspects of her life became consumed by it, and like she had to actively try and carve out things that were separate from football. And I guess, again, and the importance of this conversation is like the people watching you week in, week out and supporting you, the fans, sometimes maybe forget that side of things, that when you're not on the pitch.
Yeah.
When you're not on the pitch, you're still thinking about being on the pitch.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, like Kirsty, obviously I played with her a little bit at Man United. She's so right. It does, like football consumes us. And it's probably it's a big thing for a lot of us trying to get to the point where football actually doesn't consume us.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like when you get to that point, you're at the end of your career anyway, so you're moving on to the next thing. It is really difficult in that respect because even let's say the end of the day, you leave and then you go out for coffee, sometimes you're there, but you're not really there. You're not really truly present in conversations, even when on paper you're not actually at work, you're doing different things. Yeah, which is just difficult. And I think that that's somewhere where I would like to see younger athletes supported a bit more, is like how to develop those personal skills of being able to separate our identity as a footballer from who we are as a person.
And you go back to your two ACL injuries, came in close succession, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been the biggest test for you, not just like, which was harder, I guess, the first or the second?
They were both minging.
Yeah.
But I flew back from the second one in terms of how I felt in and of my body and myself. Whereas the first one was like, I did do the ACL, but I also did other things, and it really made the rehab really tricky.
Yeah.
I know.
I want to play.
I know. You're being such a good girl. I know, look at this one.
Because, you know, we always talk about the physical side of getting back and the things you do, and we see that progress in the gym, the photos that are shared, you know, you're running for the first time, on the pitch for the first time. But like mentally, I guess you'd done the first one, so maybe you had a bit more of an idea of how the second one would go. But equally, to do 2 in a row, it must feel mentally like, oh my God, what have I done to kind of deserve that?
Honestly, it felt like a bit of a nightmare, and it took. I think actually, when I did my first one, I didn't really realise actually what was happening to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a chicken that gets its head cut off, and then for days or weeks I'm kind of like,
Right.
oh, I'm so positive, it's fine, I'm going to attack this, I'm going to come back fitter, better, stronger, like all of the buzzwords. And then over the months it's like, oh my goodness, like this is really bad, this is really bad. But really the physical side is the easiest side of the injury, and for me what I've really struggled with over the injuries and since the injuries is trying to not be haunted by the fact that any time I go out to train or any time I go out to a game, I can potentially have a really serious injury.
Yeah.
And it's that like naivety that has kind of been taken from me of kind of going out and just playing that I had until I was mid-20s, until I did the first one. And that is something that for me has been like a horror. And kind of, I wouldn't say haunts me to this day, but I wouldn't say I'm fully, like I'm not the same in that respect.
Yeah.
I have to work and remind myself probably everything's going to be fine and like really try and believe it.
God, you really don't think about that as like when you watch a player.
Yeah, I'll go out to a game, not so much in recent months, but I'll see the ambulance at the side of the pitch and think, oh, that could be me today.
Oh God, like trusting your body.
Yeah, a little bit.
And maybe also in the kind of position that you play as a defender who has to make tackles
Kind of
and go
shift,
for challenges. I know it can happen to any player on the pitch, but that must be an added.
Yeah,
thought
100%.
process.
And that's the only way that I've ever played the game. I'm on the spectrum of like aggressive 1v1 type players. That would be me in terms of like using my physicality as a skill. So if you take a bit of that away, then I kind of lose my personal edge.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it would be any easier for a player that's like not 100%.
But it's one of your building blocks,
yeah,
right? One
So
of your foundation blocks.
It's sort of like, well, I don't really know who I am if I go 50% or 60%. So I have to leave it all out on the line.
Have you had help dealing with that mental resilience side of things?
Yeah, I have worked since so I didn't have any like professional help in the first or the second injury. To be fair, it was offered to me. Didn't have professional help with the first or the second injury, but then I was playing for Ireland, and a Malpew, she's since got married, she got injured in front of me.
Oh yeah.
She got injured just before I clattered into her. I kind of, for the following days, like just felt like a bit sick, like I was kind of underwater, like I couldn't focus in conversations. It was like keeping me up at night. I was replaying the injury in my head. And she was taken off on like a little buggy or a cart. And I can remember the sounds and like the smell of the buggy, and it really affected me. And I found myself being quite out of breath when I would talk about it. So the doctor at Man United was like, "Oh, do you maybe want to go and speak to someone?" Basically, so they referred me to an external therapist, and that was absolutely, like, honest to God, transformative. Like, changed my life, working with her weekly from then until this day. Like on that day, I think it had just brought up loads of...
That's so interesting. That was the thing.
Yeah, it was like, it kind of, I think I'd just not really absorbed and fully taken into my body how much I had struggled with the injuries, and that one interaction had kind of like brought it to the fore a little bit. So then, I've been working with a amazing therapist ever since, and actually I got it written into my contract when I went to Newcastle.
Brilliant.
That I could have access to that on a weekly basis if I wanted to.
That's so smart.
So it's like I kind of feel like I've invested in myself a little bit.
100%.
It's so important to set those parameters as well and understand, because I imagine when you get into the game when you're younger and you're just playing football because you're loving football and you know, it's what you really want to do and you're passionate about, and you don't think about all of the other stuff that's going on around you.
Yeah.
And it only probably hits you a bit later on that, you know, you need to look after yourself.
Yeah. And I think as well as like as footballers or people that are into sport, like it's the arena or area of our life where we come to kind of compete and say to ourselves like things like, if you just push through, or if you work really hard, or
we celebrate people like coming back from injury quickly.
Yeah.
I just think that's a really interesting message for any players, or even, you know, those listening, that you might get through the injury and think, okay, I've gotten through all this, but it can actually hit you at a different time, and something else could trigger that awareness that you need support.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in recent years, more and more footballers are talking out about, we talk so openly about strength and conditioning coaches, technical coaches on the pitch, nutritionists, all different people that are there to help us be our best. And one of the missing links of the conversation is probably someone who can help us mentally and like how we are.
I think we all forget how important it is to heal your, or keep your mind ticking.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that you perform on every other stage. As if when you're feeling down, or when you're not quite feeling confused, or you're feeling confused, that's when you're not going to perform at your best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And not only just about performing our best, but actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it should be a given, but it isn't a given that there's necessarily joy in every game that we play.
I'm going to do an about turn here, otherwise I'm going to end up in the water.
Yeah.
She might like that. I'm not sure about the rest of us. Although there's quite a few people here getting in the water, which seems crazy. It's beautiful.
This is such a treat, by the way.
Oh.
This is such a treat.
Isn't it? Yeah. Like, I didn't think I'd be on a beach in February and having a nice chat. Like, this is why we wanted to do it, because sometimes I think we always talk about the importance of speaking up during Mental Health Awareness Month or on World Mental Health Day or something, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And actually it's quite important to keep having that conversation. And, you know, I remember Sophie, you brought it up in the last episode about, you know, we talk about an individual looking after their mental health, but then you've like a team mentality is like a whole other area of the game as well. So not just individually, but a team can struggle with their mentality, or with, you know, and how do you juggle both of them? You've got individuals managing their mental health and a team as well. And if we're not prioritizing it, you know, that's going to be a big struggle, isn't it? In a team, have you had that in teams where like you just go through really difficult times as a unit and you can't put your finger on what the kind of issue is?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's that team bit is the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
It is really, everything can be quantified, but sometimes how a team is collectively, it's just really hard to put your finger on. I find that players that have the skills to look after themselves and be aware of how we are feeling, they're the people that are better equipped to show up for their teammates on an individual, in an individual way. And I think when you've got enough people on a team that are able to do that, and that comes with a bit of age, but not always, then the team can be more cohesive. That's just my personal view of it. And then that's before you get into like massive things that a team might go through, like missing out on qualification or getting really far into a tournament and, let's say, the FA Cup, and then losing in the final. It's not something that is properly worked on, I suppose. So it's almost difficult to answer, because it's not like I can go, oh well, this person deals with that. And there are, obviously team psychologists are a really good thing that's come into the game, but it's quite every person is different in that role with how they approach that. So I think it's definitely somewhere that as teams get more resource, it's an area that will have more and more attention on it.
I was going to ask you about that change, because you've been at a few clubs now, been around the game for a little while.
A little while, a long while. When I was on the way here, my mum said that she remembers you from the Birmingham Arsenal Champions League game. I think was it the Hive at that point?
We bumped into her in the cafe.
Yeah, she said that, and I was like, I think that was 2014.
Yeah.
You're showing all of our ages now.
That's 12 years ago.
Okay, now we're going to have
this way, darling. Come on.
fun climbing over this.
So a little while. I'm being nice to all of us here, I think. But in that time, what do you think has changed, or how much more needs to improve in terms of this side of the game?
The professionalism is completely night and day. It's almost a different sport, the way that it's approached now. It's so professional, so high performing. I guess what comes with that then is there's extra pressures and expectation. So from the growth of the game then comes the need, I think, for more support for players but also staff.
Yeah.
Obviously I've only been involved in the game as a player, but the staff, in terms of the hours that they put in, they 100% put in way more hours than the players. So having things in place to look after players and staff would be a really big benefit. And I think it's probably something that the professional football, like the PFA, can kind of keep an eye on and think about. It's like you get the thing that you really want, which is a fully professional women's league, a fully professional second division women's league, and then there's like it grows legs that need to be tended to
catch up. Yeah.
But on the whole, the change has just been amazing. Like when I played in the FA Cup final for Birmingham in 2017, I think the attendance was touching 40,000. And that was
unprecedented.
That was unprecedented. It was incredible. And then the last 3 years we've been in the final, it's been pretty much a sellout, there or thereabouts. So even in the space of several years, it's just went from will the final even be at Wembley to now not being able to get a ticket.
That was such a flex. And in the last 3 rounds we've been in the FA Cup final,
that was a flex.
that
actually was a bit self-indulgent. That was self-indulgent.
When I was there with Birmingham, then I've also been there with other clubs. No big deal. I don't want to brag about it. But
I mean, I've only won it once, so
that's a lot more than a lot of players. To be fair, don't put it down. We're flexing here. And it's interesting you say that about staff as well, because the first episode we did was with Rhiannon Skinner when she was manager at West Ham, and you know the things behind the scenes that you don't see, you know, for you guys especially, eat, sleep, train, repeat. I remember speaking to Fran about that, how everything you do, whether it's someone invites you out for a night out and everything you have to think about football. And Rhiannon spoke about all of those additional things that kind of go on behind the scenes, and the game has grown, exposure has grown, you know, scrutiny has grown. Have we been building the game to help you deal with that level of scrutiny, and as it's grown, do you think?
I mean, I think with the rise of social media as well, we're not really touched on that, but the pressures that players and staff face are it's really tricky. It's like really hairy, can be really, really unpleasant, and that's just coming from someone who is having a decent career in women's football. I'm not attracting the most attention, but still I mute my name on X, formerly Twitter, because you see things and it can really knock your confidence, and that comes into the mental health piece that we've been talking about. And I suppose that's where changes and things that can be put in place to look after players, but really people, it sometimes sits outside of the club and even outside of the league, and it's more potentially to do with what the government can look into and bills that they can put in place. But I suppose as footballers we do have the platform to raise awareness about things that we face that probably isn't okay. Some of the abuse that really high profile and not even necessarily high profile players face. For example, like the racism that continually crops up that players like Jess Carter have recently been subjected to. So with that growth, it attracts attention, and some of that attention has helped fuel people's careers on and off the pitch. But then also there's a really unpleasant side that we shouldn't accept, I think. So managing social media would be a massive one for me in terms of looking after people.
And I think it's really hard, isn't it? Because even though the game is growing and getting more media coverage, more back pages and all of that, the traditional kind of media, it still relies on the digital form of media to really put it in the spotlight, because columns are still, you know, heavily skewed towards the men's game or men's sport, and you're still having to fight for space. So you're still using it as in the old days where it was being used to make noise about the women's game and really platform it.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to balance that side of it and like growing your brand as players and clubs with the nasty stuff. And
Yeah.
how do you balance the most important thing out of that? And you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, it's like you've touched on the fact that digital media is so important for the growth of the women's game, and it's a really powerful tool that gets used for so much good. For example, when this goes out, it will be online, presumably. That's if it makes the cut. It could get
It will, don't
could
worry.
get put in the bin. And people might never see this, but that is an example of, I think, media being used in a really amazing way that connects with people. People might resonate with what we're talking about today. So it's sometimes hard to find that balance in conversation about what is so brilliant about social media and what is done for the women's game, and then some things that really do need to get better.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
It's a real hard one, I think, because I guess from our point of view, our whole career now is built on the social media side of things, but we also see everything that's out there, and it's that kind of hard balance of whether you pull yourself away from it,
doing our jobs and also want to delete social media platforms. They're like, well, we can't do that. Yeah, no, that's so true. It's interesting you say that you mute your name. I think that's quite an important thing to highlight for people listening, that players see stuff, even if they're not tagged. Players see stuff, and I'm sure you accept that criticism of the game is a thing, and we know that that's going to happen, and people will critique performances and whatever else. But there's another level that it goes to, that people seem to just see player or team as opposed to person, and it's quite an important message that like players are people at the end of the day, managers are people at the end of the day, and like that just needs to be factored in when you're that is
It's
like a
always
mini-me.
on the serious questions, isn't
I know,
it?
yeah. They're like, let's lighten the mood.
Oh.
Yeah, I just think it's an important point that when people go to tweet that nasty little message,
it's
to just remember.
So it really, really, really affects people.
Yeah.
Really affects people.
And then the
ways
onus
that
is
I don't-
always
yeah.
the onus is on you to just not look at it. That's what annoys me. Well, you could just not go on Twitter. Why is that? Why is it on the person receiving the nastiness to be the one to
So
have the onus?
But in 24, there was this whole report that was done about, how female athletes were putting their story and their brand out through TikTok and social media, and essentially making an income on in surplus to what they're not really making at the games when they're performing at the Olympic Games. So it's funding their careers essentially, but and then you're telling them what they can't brand themselves or can't tell their stories because of some people who are idiots and don't know how to behave. It just seems the wrong way of doing things.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I made the decision to mute myself when Twitter first got to the point where your feed wasn't just who you were following.
Oh yeah.
It was like what
the
Twitter
for
was,
you.
Yeah, it
we
was
think
like
you'll
for
like
you.
this.
And I remember Harry Maguire was going through a tricky time at Man United. He was getting a lot of stick. And I remember seeing videos, like memes or videos of him come up. And I was kind of watching them. I was just like scrolling through in an almost like mind-numbing fashion. And then the next one was a tweet about me and him as number 5s for the club and how bad we were, and it was videos, and the video of me was when I did my ACL.
Oh.
And it really hurt me. I will say I saw it and it just really stung. It really hit me. Obviously with all of the hang-ups that I've had around injuries, that people don't necessarily know that, and they're not to know, but that was when I thought, oh actually, this isn't a bit of me. I don't really like this. So then I kind of have been really clear, I think, a bit more on boundary setting and not indulging in things, even if it's not about me.
Yeah.
And in that instance, it was me looking at something about another player.
Yeah. And you just happened to be brought into it.
Kind of. Yeah.
It's crazy.
What would you like to see going forward in football when it comes to mental health? Like, lots that could be done.
So I have an idea, and I've said it to the girls at Newcastle, but no one's really like bit onto it. I think every member of a club, like players and staff, should be able to cash in one personal day a month, where they can just be like, I don't really fancy coming in today, and just
a mental health day.
Yeah, just not come in. And I think that the expectation on players and staff to be so available all the time, and we come in every day and we're doing the same vibe and we're doing the same thing and we're trying our hardest. I think that little handbrake of one day a month could just really make you feel like you could actually have the space to acknowledge how you felt about something. And I don't think there's scope for that in the current schedule of how we train and perform.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're going into an Olympics where the day before an event, if I'm doing big air tomorrow, I have to train today. Like, we have a training schedule that is all around the year. So a day here and there where players can
switch off,
maybe go and do something different, I think that would reap rewards.
But I guess also allow what's happening in your personal life to be able to come to the front and centre, because I imagine with athletes that can be really hard. And I was listening to, I think it was a sports agents, they were talking about grief, and I can't remember the player, it's a men's player, and back in the day, he's retired now, and his aunt had died, but his aunt was pretty much like his mother.
That's
and
really
the manager expected him to be at a friendly the next day. And
it's
you're
not right, is it? That's really
like,
sad.
Football should be able to look after its people, right? And be able to say, yes, it's important, it's a job, it's a business, it makes a lot of money, but at the end of the day, the people at the heart of it are the most important.
Yeah. It's such a shame when you hear things like that, because I think that football has, or how footballers relate to football, we've got to the point now where we all recognise that that's probably not okay.
Yeah.
But only 5 or 10 years ago, no one would necessarily have known that was like,
not okay. There was a line, a barrier broken there.
So it's such a shame to hear little stories like that, and definitely like we need to look after each other as people, because people just keep trudging on.
Yes.
They just don't show up.
They do what expected of them rather than
kind of
actually being present maybe sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that, comes full circle as we wrap the episode, but like just that continuous conversation, however you have it, to remind people that mental health is as important as your physical health, and that we should be regularly talking about it, regularly looking after it, and regularly having these conversations. So, what great timing. Have we got this shot? This is the perfect ending right here. Thank you, Noodle.
What do you think, Noodle?
That was great.
Do you agree?
No, but I really appreciate you being really open and chatting to us, particularly through like difficult injuries and stuff, because I do think it resonates with people, and it means hopefully more people will continue to speak about it.
Thank you. Thanks for this.
No,
This
thank
has
you.
been such a treat.